Greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be talking about the NFL free agent frenzy that continues to surprise us and bring us excitement as we enter the 2019 fantasy football season. My goodness, Le'Veon Bell has signed with the New York Jets. This news broke last night while I was recording my Odell Beckham Jr. reaction video and my outlook on players on the Cleveland Browns and the New York Giants. So if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. But without further ado, we're going to be talking about Le'Veon Bell, his outlook as he joins the New York Jets. And then we're going to also be talking about other players who, signed some deals, were traded earlier today. Guys like Mark Ingram going to the Ravens, guys like Tevin Coleman signing with the San Francisco 49ers, and a bunch of other players who will be joining new organizations come the 2019 season. So without further ado, let's get into that, shall we? Hey everybody, how's it going? All right, hope everyone's doing well. Let's talk about Le'Veon Bell for a little bit, right? Obviously, Le'Veon Bell did not play in 2018 due to the fact that he wanted to be paid more. And the Steelers, they did offer him a good lump of money, enough to where the Steelers felt comfortable with re-signing him. Le'Veon Bell said, no, I think I'm worth more. At the end of the day, Le'Veon Bell is being paid less than he would have if he had just signed that deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But then again, he is still getting paid $52 million on a 4-year contract with the New York Jets. To be honest, I'm not really upset about this. I think, sure, it's great. Congratulations to Le'Veon Bell. But the departure of Le'Veon Bell from the Pittsburgh Steelers, all it does is it gives us more fantasy opportunity. What I mean by that is if Le'Veon Bell had not left the Pittsburgh Steelers, we would have never gotten James Conner last season and what he's going to be able to do for the next coming years as a Pittsburgh Steeler. So I'm excited about that. I'm glad Le'Veon Bell has found a new home in a backfield which really doesn't have much competition other than guys like Elijah McGuire. Really, I don't expect them to re-sign Isaiah Crowell. They should not be bringing back Bilal Powell. These are two running backs that have been playing for the Jets last season and in years prior. So, to be honest, Le'Veon Bell has his backfield to himself. Now, that being said, the New York Jets, they're making some plays in the free agency market. They're trying to bring as much talent in order to surround Sam Darnold and give him the best opportunities to succeed come 2019. If I'm not mistaken, they signed Jamison Crowder. They've traded for Kelechi Osemele. They brought in defensive players in order to make that defense, which is already a pretty good defense, back to that top-notch Jets defense that we've seen in the past. To be honest, Le'Veon Bell, I don't expect to see Le'Veon Bell from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't expect to see that at all. I don't think that we should expect that. The fact of the matter is, Adam Gase, you guys know my opinion on him if you watched my last couple videos. I just don't trust Adam Gase. A couple of the decisions that he made last season with giving more attempts to Frank Gore over a guy like Kenyon Drake really didn't sit right with me. So I have my little beef with Adam Gase at the moment. So yeah, they're bringing in Le'Veon Bell. He should be the #1 running back. He should touch the ball every single down if he is capable of doing so, unless he needs some oxygen or some Gatorade. That's plain and simple, right? The fact that they have Sam Darnold, it's going to force them to have to throw the ball to Le'Veon Bell. I mean, he is a wide receiver out of the backfield, and with a young quarterback like Darnold, especially when his first or second read is an open, he's going to have to look for Le'Veon Bell. It's fantastic. A couple of the stats that I kind of pulled out, the Jets targeted the running back position 102 times last season to a variety of 4 different running backs. That being said, the Miami Dolphins also targeted the running back position 100 times last season. They targeted Kenyon Drake 73 times. I thought Kenyon Drake should have seen more targets last season. And hopefully Le'Veon Bell can get into that hundreds number, because the 2 seasons in which he's played, I think almost complete seasons for the Pittsburgh Steelers. There was a year in which he played 16 games in a full season and 15 games. Those were the only 2 seasons in which he's had almost full seasons. Otherwise, he's played like a 12, a 5 because of the injury he sustained a couple years back. But in the 2 seasons where he played almost, the 2 full seasons he's played, He had 106 and 105 targets in those years. That's what he's going to need to be fantasy relevant. He's going to be a first-round running back come 2019 as soon as the drafts start to begin. But where is he going to sit around? At this moment in time, I don't expect to see Le'Veon Bell of the Steelers. I don't expect him to touch the ball 350-plus times. But then again, this could be a different transition. This organization, the Jets, they brought in a new coach. I don't know if Adam Gase is going to take him to that next level because, to be honest, Le'Veon Bell running the ball 250-plus times doesn't seem like a number that might even happen because this offensive line, they're not great. They're not great at all. According to Pro Football Focus last season, if I'm not mistaken, they were the 25th ranked offensive line amongst all offensive lines. And they brought in Colecchio Simile, but he didn't have a great season last year. Perhaps he can get back to form, but this is not a Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line. Pittsburgh Steelers offensive line is a top 3 offensive line for the last, goodness gracious, 4 years plus, right? With those guys, Villanueva, Foster, Pouncey, and David DeCastro. They just traded Gilbert, unfortunately, today, but, they had to part ways. They've had a pretty solid stable of 5 guys for the last couple of years, and that's why Le'Veon Bell was able to find so much success. That's why James Conner could just come in his second year after really not playing much in his rookie season and just completely be, there was no room to have to get used to the NFL. He just came in and he produced because that offensive line is so good. So going to the Jets, obviously his offensive line is not going to be the best possible thing. They brought in a couple extra weapons to help Sam Darnold, but yes, he's going to be a first-round pick, but I see him probably being late first. I could not, in full conscience and with full confidence, take Le'Veon Bell as a top 8 running back. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It would hurt too much. I think there are better options this season, and especially with guys like Mark Ingram leaving the New Orleans Saints gives Alvin Kamara that much more talent. Dalvin Cook sitting by himself in Minnesota. There are guys that are going to move up draft boards, and I think Le'Veon Bell, yes, he's going to be an RB1 this season, but overall, I don't think he's going to be the Le'Veon that we're used to, the guy that's leading the NFL with all the PPR points and just tearing apart leagues. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. But anyway, other than that, for Le'Veon Bell, until we see him play, there's nothing else much to theorize. The only thing I would say is just in a little bit, I'll have my rankings out. When I say in a little bit, I mean we've got a lot of time till the 2019 season begins. So I'll try to get my running back rankings out in due time in order to kind of give you guys my thoughts on where I think he's kind of safe. But I personally would rather have James Conner this season, plain and simple. I understand that that offense is missing 2 big pieces. Le'Veon Bell is no longer a part of them. Sure, they dealt with that last year, and they don't have Antonio Brown over there in Pittsburgh. Great. That'll give James Conner more opportunity to touch the ball, see the ball out of the backfield in the passing game. And, I 100% would rather have a guy like James Conner, Melvin Gordon. I mean, goodness gracious. There are a lot of talented running backs. So, anyway, let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about some other running backs who signed in different places today. Let's talk about Mark Ingram to begin, shall we? So Mark Ingram is moving on from the New Orleans Saints, and he's going to be playing for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, we knew this was going to happen due to the fact that obviously, Alvin Kamara has just been ridiculous. In the 4 games in which Mark Ingram was suspended last season, he got suspended because of performance-enhancing drugs. So he missed the first 4 games of the season. In those games, Alvin Kamara absolutely took over. He proved that he can be the number 1 back and have number 1 back touches, attempts, and be sustainable. He's not, even though he's a smaller statured running back, he doesn't take big hits, and Alvin Kamara is just going to be that lead back going forward. They did sign Latavius Murray as the RB2 of that team. No big surprise because, obviously Kamara is going to need some rest here and there, and they also line him up outside a little bit. So Latavius Murray can pretty much fill in the job that Mark Ingram was capable of doing last season. So what is Mark Ingram capable of? We saw in just this past season When he came back from that 4-game suspension, he had 132 fantasy points in half-point PPR scoring formats. It was exactly 11 fantasy points per game in the last 12 games of the season. So not a bad running back, to be honest, especially if you're looking at filling him in as a flex position. He was great. Now, in 2017, Mark Ingram for the Saints, with Alvin Kamara also in that backfield. Yet, Alvin Kamara was a rookie that season. That even being said, still, Alvin Kamara had a lot of touches that year. Mark Ingram's best season was in 2017. He led the team, in his career, he had never passed the amount that he did in 2017. What I mean by that is he had career highs in rushing attempts, rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, receptions, receiving yards. I mean, just up and down the board, Mark Ingram had his best season of his entire career in 2017. So he's not too far away from that. He scored 249 fantasy points that season in half-point PPR. That's 15.5 points per game. That was for sure an RB1 that season. So that even being said, we know Mark Ingram is capable of being a great running back. He's going to the Baltimore Ravens, a team who in 2018, are you guys ready for this? Because this makes a pretty big difference. In 2018, the Baltimore Ravens, I don't even know what I was about to say there. The Baltimore Ravens led the entire NFL in rushing attempts with 547 rushing attempts on the entire year. They also were number 2 in the NFL with rushing yards, only behind the Seattle Seahawks. They had 2,441 rushing yards on the season. They were number 3 in rushing touchdowns, in which they had 19 last season. They were number 12 when it comes to yards per carry average, nearly averaging 4.5 yards per carry. Goodness gracious. And not to mention, they also led the NFL with the statistic of the most rushing first downs with 153. So they moved the ball on the ground last season. I know the addition to Lamar Jackson absolutely helps those numbers, but that's just what the team's going to be. Lamar Jackson is not a quarterback who's going to sit back and throw the ball 40 times a game. That's not going to happen. This is a run-first team in which they want to dictate the game with their offensive line and their defense. And bringing in a guy like Mark Ingram when they don't have an established RB1 that we can confidently say is going to be, the guy for the rest of the season. Because prior to bringing in Mark Ingram, we thought to ourselves, let's say a month ago, we thought they have Gus Edwards, they have Kenneth Dixon, they have Alex Collins. Alex Collins got a DUI, crashed his car, boom, he got cut. Then we thought to ourselves, okay, we have Kenneth Dixon and Gus Edwards. Gus Edwards did not have a single reception last season in those last couple weeks in which he actually had playing time. Kenneth Dixon dominated the passing game on the team for them, and a little bit of Ty Montgomery here and there as well. But that even being the case, when you bring in a guy like Mark Ingram who is capable of doing both, carrying between the tackles, carrying the ball 230 plus times a season, and being the lead back out of in the receiving game, third down game, goodness gracious, he's got himself in a very advantageous position. The offensive line for this team, Ronnie Stanley, the left tackle, All-Pro. You have Marshall Yanda, 2 of the best offensive linemen in the NFL already in this offensive line. It's a run-first team. They went ahead, they re-signed Nick Boyle, the tight end, a guy that is known for being a great blocking tight end. Goodness gracious. I think they have 3 tight ends under contract. They have Boyle. I think they had Williams last year, but I'm not sure if he's a free agent or not. They still have Hayden Hurst. They have Mark Andrews. But the only place that I see the Baltimore Ravens struggling, it's in the passing game. John Brown, their leading receiver from last year, bye-bye. He's on the Buffalo Bills. Michael Crabtree has been cut. So who's your number 1 receiver? Is it Mark Andrews, the tight end? Is it going to be Willie Snead? They've really got to... the Baltimore Ravens have to go out and they have to sign somebody. They have to bring in receivers for Lamar Jackson. You cannot run the ball every down in the NFL. It is impossible. But either way, we're talking about Mark Ingram. And for sure, without a doubt in my mind, he's going to be a great running back this season. He's, assuming he touches the ball, they ran the ball 500 and almost 50 times last season, 547 to be exact. If Mark Ingram sees 230 carries, I mean, he's going to have 1,000 yards rushing easily, making him an RB2 candidate. So that's probably where I see him. If he ends up seeing more touches than that, then, goodness, he can be a high-end RB2, low-end RB1 this season because of how much potential this team has and how good they are running the ball, because that's what they really like to focus in on. So anyway, outlook when it comes to Mark Ingram, it looks great. They just gotta get receivers. You have to sign some playmaking receivers. You can't just go to the draft and draft a rookie and assume that he is going to be, game day ready in week 1 in order to, help this team out. The way I see it, if they can't establish a passing game that is a viable threat in the NFL, teams are going to blitz because they know, okay, all Lamar Jackson wants to do is either hand the ball off or drop back for a 5-yard pass to Willie Snead or start to scramble. So they'll just contain, they'll spy a linebacker, spy an interior defensive lineman. They'll make sure that Lamar Jackson can't get out of that pocket, keep him contained, and make him throw the ball because teams really, against the Chargers in the playoffs, that's what they forced him to do. They made him drop back, and he turned over the ball, 4 times in that game against the Chargers in the playoffs? Yes, it was a close game at the end, but still, that's how you beat a guy like Lamar Jackson. Anyway, this team, it's going to be pretty fun, okay? Because defensive coordinators in the NFL, even though I say, blitz him a bunch, they have a hell of a time dealing with running quarterbacks. And when you have the read option game where you have to always have a defensive end or an outside linebacker respecting Lamar Jackson pulling the ball in the option, it opens up a little bit more for the running backs. But anyway, Mark Ingram should be fantastic this year. Glad he signed with this team. Opens up more value for Kamara and himself. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next running back. I wanted to talk about another guy that signed today, Tevin Coleman. He's going to be playing for the San Francisco 49ers this season. All right, so here's the thing. He's rejoining his former head coach, Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, if many of you don't know, used to be the head coach for the Atlanta Falcons. Took them to the Super Bowl. Unfortunately, couldn't close the deal, but no big deal. It happens, 28-3. You can blow that lead. That's not okay. Anyway, sorry. If that's salt in the wound, it's been a couple years. Okay, relax. The Rams got schmacked, okay, and I'm a Rams fan, so leave me alone. The Patriots, all right, we're moving on. Okay, so here's the deal. Oh, man, Tevin Coleman. Last season, or, to be honest, the last 2 seasons, Tevin Coleman's had a lot of opportunities for the Atlanta Falcons. And the reason because that is because Devontae Freeman has not stayed healthy. Plain and simple. Devontae Freeman this last season missed, practically the entire year. And Tevin Coleman was given, the RB1 reign over this backfield. I know Ito Smith had his carries here and there, had a lot of goal line work in which he vultured a lot of touchdowns. But that even being said, Tevin Coleman was still the number 18th running back in half-point PPR rankings this last season. So, he was an RB2. The year prior, when Devontae Freeman had played 12 games, missed 4 games, Tevin Coleman was the number 20 running back in half-point PPR scoring formats. So we've, over the last couple of years, seen, okay, he is capable with, only 200, well, not even. I think he had about 180 touches the last 2 years combined. Really not that much. 200 max, I think it was this season. We've seen him be an RB2 solidly. And going back to a Kyle Shanahan offense, which he's pretty capable of understanding the offense, the concept, and fitting comfortably there. I think this helps Tevin Coleman. Now, I didn't at all expect him to sign here. I thought he would have ended up with the Raiders or the Jets or perhaps the Eagles, just depending on who wanted him. But really, 2 years, $10 million. I thought he would have been a little bit more expensive running back. But I guess after we've seen him be the number 1 running back for the Atlanta Falcons last season, he really wasn't able to produce much. But that even being said, he wasn't given that many carries or touches overall throughout the entire year. So I think he had about 10 touches per game. Nothing too big deal. Definitely could have seen more and probably would have helped him. But anyway, let's talk about his outlook for the 49ers. Now, here's the issue that I see already presenting itself. You have guys like Matt Breida, You have Jerick McKinnon, but Jerick McKinnon didn't play last season because he had the season-ending injury in the preseason. And then now you've brought in Tevin Coleman. So you have 3 capable starting running backs that can all start in the NFL. And then you also have Raheem Mostert that's sitting in the wings. He also had a season-ending injury halfway through. So you have 4 running backs on this roster. Hopefully they get rid of Alfred Morris. But you have 4 capable running backs on this team. Goodness gracious. If I've ever seen a running back by committee, this is it. This is a full running back by committee. They're just stacking running backs that are just going to present value for, Mr. Garoppolo. That's all I see. I honestly cannot full on tell you, Tevin Coleman is going to be the RB1. Until we get a confirmation that Jerick McKinnon is having a tough time coming back, perhaps his rehab kind of is taking a little bit longer than expected, then I understand this signing. But when you already have Matt Breida, I understand Matt Breida was an injury mess last year. Every week he was hurt. Every week. Jerick McKinnon's coming off an injury himself. If Tevin Coleman starts the season as a starter, because of the fact that the rehab of Jerick McKinnon has taken a little bit longer than expected, okay, then I understand that. But still, I think this is going to end up being a running back by committee. All of these players are losing fantasy stock and value in my eyes. I think when you have so many capable running backs, they could literally switch them every single down. First down could be Breida, second down Tevin Coleman, third down Jerick McKinnon. And then what? You're just splitting all of your touches, your fantasy value into thirds. And that's not great, to be honest, especially with such a good team. The 49ers are a good running team. Offensively, they're going to have, they're going to be impressive this season. They get Jimmy Garoppolo back. George Kittle stepped up. Matt Breida, even though he was hurt, was still a fantasy asset for many teams. I don't know. As of right now, I'm a little afraid. I 100% see running back by committee all over this backfield for the 49ers. So kind of discouraging as of right now, but you never know. I never, man, because, I just talked about Mark Ingram 5 minutes ago, right? And I said, he's probably going to get 230 touches. Now, the reason why I believe that is because the Ravens run the ball more than anybody in the NFL. That's not going to be the case with the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, they're going to run the ball a decent amount, but when you have to play teams like the Seahawks and the Rams within your own division, you have to keep up. You have to score. And that's going to force Jimmy Garoppolo to spread the ball out with his arm. And I don't see them running the ball, 450 times this season. If they end up doing so, sure, then these running backs will have value. But I don't see guys, like McKinnon or Tevin Coleman getting the rushing yards or rushing attempts, and Breida with his injury history. It's going to be a circus in that backfield. All right, anyway, so before I get out of here, let's go ahead and transition. Let's talk about a couple guys that signed today, yeah? A couple trades here and there throughout the National Football League before we go. All right, let's take it from the top. Let's see here. Where did the Arizona Cardinals? Obviously, they got Gilbert, the offensive tackle. They signed Jordan Hicks, linebacker for the Eagles. Brett Hundley as the second-string quarterback. That's an interesting thing. They have Josh Rosen, and they brought in another UCLA quarterback, Brett Hundley. So the question is, are they really going to draft Kyler Murray? It's just off of that, I already have the suspicion that they might not. Because why would you bring in that second UCLA quarterback? Because maybe both those guys, Rosen played on the same team as Brett Hundley. Actually, no, I don't think Rosen played as a true freshman. So after Hundley had left. So maybe not. I don't know. Terrell Suggs, J.R. Sweezy. So they improved their offensive line, get a little bit more defensive pieces. Obviously, they brought in 2 offensive linemen, Gilbert and Sweezy. Sweezy played for the Seahawks last season. Gilbert, as we mentioned before, Pittsburgh Steeler. Those are 2 great additions, and this is the 32nd ranked offensive line in the NFL last season. So the Cardinals definitely needed this improvement. I'm glad they were able to establish that early on in this free agency frenzy. Atlanta Falcons, what'd they do? Signed 2 offensive guards this offseason, great. Jamon Brown, James Carpenter, great. They go ahead and protect their quarterback. Grady Jarrett, okay, they re-signed the defensive tackle, no big deal. The Ravens signed Nick Boyle, Mark Ingram, Earl Thomas, but they lost a lot more defensive pieces. All right, listen what happened with the Bills. Goodness gracious. They signed Cole Beasley, John Brown, Frank Gore, Tyler Kroft, Mitch Morse, and then Ty Nishki. I don't know. Goodness gracious. They just, they broke the bank to try to fill. I don't even know. These aren't even good players. They are surrounding Josh Allen with average, mediocre talent, to be honest. Cole Beasley, 4 years, $30 million. 14.4 guaranteed. Cole Beasley, really? That's awful. You already had Zay Jones and you had Robert Foster. And then you had, I think it's Isaiah McKinney. No, it's not Isaiah. Something McKenzie. That was decent last season. Why the heck did you have to go out and sign Cole Beasley and John Brown? And then you had to go and sign Frank Gore and Tyler Kroft? Man, I don't know about the Bills team. It's worrisome already. Carolina Panthers, they signed Matt Paradis. Okay, I already mentioned that yesterday. Mike Davis to the Bears. Cordell Patterson to the Bears. Buster Skrine, who used to be the cornerback for the Jets, over to the Bears. Let's see here. What did the Cincinnati Bengals do? Absolutely nothing. They signed an offensive lineman, and they got a linebacker. Great. They did nothing. The Cleveland Browns, of course. They got Olivier Vernon, Odell Beckham, signed Sheldon Richardson to a 3-year, $36 million deal. Nice. Greg Robinson re-signed. I don't like Greg Robinson. He was terrible for the Rams when we drafted him. Just, I don't know. Maybe, you know what I think? I think Joe Thomas should come out of retirement and play left tackle for the Browns this year. Just saying. The Cowboys, they've really done nothing. If anything, they've lost more players this offseason. The Broncos, they get Kareem Jackson, Juwan James, the highest paid right tackle in the NFL, coming over from the Dolphins. They get Joe Flacco. The Lions, they signed Danny Amendola. Okay, to be honest, I like that a lot, actually. I know Kenny Galladay and Marvin Jones are going to have a lot of value, but goodness gracious, the slot receiver for the Detroit Lions these last couple seasons have been pretty productive. We know what Golden Tate was capable of and how many targets he used to see per game. And as soon as he disappeared, there were other wide receivers that were getting those targets, even though they had half the talent that Golden Tate does. So Danny Amendola could fit there perfectly. And obviously he goes back to one of the umbrella coaches of the New England Patriots. What's his name? Big Beardo. I don't know what. Goodness, I forget his name. Backwards hat. I was going to say Matt. No. Matt Patricia. Yeah, it is Matt. Anyway, let's see. The Green Bay Packers, they adjust defensively, got a bunch of defensive players. Houston did the same, got a bunch of defensive players. Indianapolis Colts, only offensive guy is Devin Funchess that they've picked up so far. The Jaguars, $88 million deal. 4 years for Nick Foles, no big deal. The Kansas City Chiefs, Tyrann Mathieu. We'll talk about Carlos Hyde later. Tyrod Taylor to the Chargers? Okay, sure, whatever. You know what the crazy thing about that is? Phillip Rivers hasn't missed a single game in 13 years. I think since he's become the starting quarterback for the Chargers, dude has not missed a single game. I think it's like 208 consecutive starts. So I don't know why you needed Tyrod Taylor as your backup, but maybe they'll trade him. Let's see. The Rams, okay, Dante Fowler, Eric Weddle, no big deal. Dwayne Allen going to the Dolphins. He's a better blocking tight end. Eric Rowe, cornerback. Anthony Barr stays there. Okay, yeah. All right, where are the offensive players? Let's see. Le'Veon Bell, Josh Bellamy, Jamison Crowder, all going to the New York Jets. Great. Antonio Brown. Tyrell Williams. Okay, so I was talking about Tyrell Williams the other day and potentially going to the Colts or potentially going to the Cleveland Browns. Now, the hilarious part, okay, as soon as the Colts went out and they said, no, we're taking Devin Funchess, and the Browns came out and said, hey, you know what, we're going to take Odell Beckham, the next best possible spot is landing with the Oakland Raiders. Goodness gracious, this Raiders team, as a passing threat, if they can re-sign Jared Cook, which is free agent right now, Antonio Brown, Jordy Nelson, Jared Cook, and Tyrell Williams, whoo, and then you can have Jalen Richard out of the backfield because Derek Carr loves to throw to him. Oh my goodness, it's looking good. Let's see here. The Eagles, they re-signed a couple players. They signed Malik Jackson, Deshaun Jackson for trade. Yeah. The 49ers went out and made a lot of moves here. Kawan Alexander, Tampa Bay Buccaneers linebacker. D Ford, outside linebacker for the Chiefs. Jimmy Ward, cornerback, signed an offense. They franchise tag Robbie Gould. Oh my good, whatever. They're gonna pay him money. What else happened here? The Seahawks have done nothing. Tampa Bay Buccaneers re-signed offensive tackle, brought in an outside linebacker from the from the Cardinals, obviously, because Bruce Arians is poaching players at this point. No, I'm just kidding. Brashard Perriman signs with them. You know, the funny thing was Brashard Perriman was going to sign a deal with the Cleveland Browns. Before he got to sign it, Odell Beckham ended up there, and now Brashard Perriman is going to be playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tennessee Titans, they signed a one-year deal with offensive tackle there. Roger Saffold from the Rams is going to be playing left guard probably from there. Adam Humphries, Kenny Vaccaro, Cameron Wake, pretty good. Adrian Peterson, the last guy I want to talk about, re-signing with the with the Washington Redskins. Not a big surprise, due to the fact that nobody on this Redskins team can stay healthy. I don't know what it is. I would probably do some sort of. I would test the water in in Washington, in Maryland. I would test the water, please. Somebody make sure that these doctors aren't spiking the Gatorade with some sort of trash that's hurting the players, because no one can stay healthy there. Darius Geis, boom, out. Chris Thompson, majority of the season was out. Adrian Peterson had a couple of hiccups here and there. The offensive line was a mess with injuries. They couldn't have a healthy quarterback to save their lives. But they went out. They signed Landon Collins defensively. They're going to probably re-sign HaHa Clinton-Dix, who they traded for last season. Case Keenum will be the quarterback. You'll have a three-headed monster of Adrian Peterson, Darius Geis, and Chris Thompson in that backfield. They don't have any wide receivers. The Washington Redskins practically look like the Ravens right now, but I'd rather be a part of that Ravens offense because Lamar Jackson just pops off the screen a little bit more for me comparatively to a guy like Case Keenum. Anyway, but no, offensive lines, they're pretty similar too. Great, left tackle and Pro Bowl guards. Anyway, so those are the names that are moved around. Unless in the last 10 minutes somebody else has moved around, which, chances are they have. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for watching. If you haven't already, click that subscribe button. I will see you guys later on in the week, depending on, what ends up going down. But anyway, thank you everybody for watching. If you have any comments, go down below. Let me know what you guys are thinking about all these moves, because goodness, yes, they're exciting, but they're throwing a lot of monkey wrenches into the gears that I was already assuming were going to be. Doesn't matter. I could rant for 10 minutes, but I'll save you guys the ear pain. So thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.